So that is very, very cool. So those are decoys, basically. Those are decoys, kind of blow up decoys that have been used traditionally in war. And people are making comments in the chat. They were totally used in World War II, and we're going to get into that. And I'd like to, for those of you who don't know, I was a former U.S. Army officer. And so in training and things like that, for those who were more interested to go in depth, I studied a lot of the counterinsurgency stuff. It was interesting. And then I was also commissioned an infantry officer. So it was necessary reading. So let me share this screen so we can look at an interesting article. This is from the War Room at the Army War College. And let's look at what they're saying about decoys. So this is from an article from 2020. A tool for deception, the urgent need for EM decoys, that's electromagnetic decoys. But let's go down here and read this paragraph here. The extent to which the US military has employed deception, particularly decoys, has varied over time, but is currently at a low after 2 decades of neglect in favor of capabilities for counterinsurgency. This has not always been the case. When facing capable adversaries with robust artillery or air forces, like Nazi Germany or the Soviet Union, American forces made more use of decoys. In the late 1980s, the US military employed tactical decoys for fighting vehicles like tanks. These inflatable decoys gave small units the ability to appear twice as large as they were in reality. A platoon of 4 tanks could appear to be 8, potentially scaring off a smaller enemy force or creating a diversion. The Army codified deception in white papers and doctrine. Unfortunately, even when such decoys were available, they were not used according to research by an Army officer at the time. Most units, and I quote, simply kept the decoy system sealed and stored in the supply room for the sake of hand receipt integrity. After decades of uncontested air dominance and counterinsurgency, tactical decoys are missing in action. Very, very interesting. Very interesting, because we don't know. Some people were saying it's fake, it's AI generated. In either case, decoys have been used, and there's a probability, I think a quite high probability, that decoys have also been used. There's been a lot of people commenting on social media, military analysts and people like that, who've noticed that there have been decoys, whether it be planes, helicopters, drones, air defense, or ballistic missiles that have been used as decoys. Now, let's read, for example, one, we were talking there about the doctrine. Let's read from the doctrine handbook. This is FM 90, I believe, from 1988. And this is about decoys. So we'll read here. Let's see. Here. Time of exposure will have a great effect on how we plan visual deception. A low-level air attack has little time to determine if a tank decoy is real or false. Nevertheless, that same tank decoy would not likely fool infrared photo interpreters unless it contained an infrared generator to fool that sensor system. During the 1973 Arab-Israeli War, the Israelis found that simple visual decoys were sufficient to draw the fire of attacking enemy fighter aircraft. U.S. air defense, radar, and artillery assets are priority enemy targets and are vulnerable to air attack. For these reasons, these systems represent an excellent use of decoys. Decoys of various vehicles and equipment have been designed and used in the past. Designs have ranged from fold-ups, inflatables, and bolt-ons. Materials have included plastic, styrofoam, and fiberglass. It should be apparent that the level of sophistication of deception equipment and techniques have far surpassed the canvas and baling wire approach of decoys and dummies that were used in World War II. Ad hoc efforts to deceive the enemy simply won't work on today's battlefield. Our deception devices and techniques must be able to fool an array of sophisticated enemy sensor technology. Our deception efforts must be believable. They must be afforded the same secrecy and security as real items. After World War II, Allied pilots enjoyed telling the story of a decoy airstrip that the Germans were painstakingly constructing entirely of wood. They made wooden aircraft, hangars, fuel points, and gun emplacements. The Germans, however, were lax in their security and camouflage during construction, and Allied photo experts were able to identify the ruse. On the day after the construction was finally completed, a lone RAF bomber swung in low, circled the airfield once, and dropped one large wooden bomb. I find that absolutely hilarious. So there you have it. There you have it. There's a very, very interesting paper from it's the deception manual. So it's very, very interesting what's going on. There is a lot of deception in this ongoing war right now, and Iran has been able to deploy deceptive techniques as well. So I think that that's very interesting, and we should pay attention to that.